7. The United Nations. A re-emergence of the Greek Empire. Revelation 17:10-11. NIV. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen. One is. The other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was, and now is not, is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. These 7 kings represent 7 world powers. 5 have fallen. And when John saw this vision, he was living in the time of the 6th world power, which was the Roman Empire. The beast that was before the Roman Empire was the Greek Empire. It is this Greek Empire that has re-emerged in the form of the United Nations. This United Nations 7th world power is formed from the union of the 7 kingdoms, making it an 8th kingdom. The United Nations core value is democracy, which is the political system of the Greek Empire, and on the logo of the United Nations we see the Greek wreath, which symbolizes peace over the world. The Greek Empire consisted of independent city-states working together, pretty much as is the United Nations with its independent nations working together to form a whole. Daniel 8:19-22. NIV. He said, I am going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the vision concerns the appointed time of the end. The 2-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes is the first king. The 4 horns that replace the one that was broken off represents 4 kingdoms that will emerge from his nation but will not have the same power. This vision is for the end times, and any similarity that has occurred in the past have not fulfilled this prophecy, as the 1,000-year reign of Christ has not been set up on the earth. The United Nations is a re-emergence of the Greek Empire. The beast that was, is not but will come again. We are told that this shaggy goat represents the kingdom of the Greek Empire, which is the United Nations. There are 5 permanent members on the UN Security Council, which make the major decisions for the UN. The large horn represents the US, as it is the largest military power in the UNSC, whose defense budget is more than the next 4 major powers combined. Once the US is gone, the 4 smaller horns will gain control of this UN goat. The 4 smaller horns of power, which are the other permanent members on the UN Security Council, are the United Kingdom, France, which is part of the EU, Russia and China. Daniel 8:3-4. NIV. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with 2 horns, standing beside the canal, and the horns were long. One of the horns was longer than the other but grew up later. I watched the ram as it charged toward the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. Daniel tells us that the larger horn on the ram will come up later. We know these 2 horns represent Media, Iraq, and Persia, Iran. This ram was pushing for control around it to the north, south and west. Daniel 8:5-7. NIV. As I was thinking about this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between its eyes came from the west, crossing the whole earth without touching the ground. It came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal, and charged at it in a great rage. I saw it attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering its 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against it. The goat knocked it to the ground, and trampled on it, and none could rescue the ram from its power. The US, symbolized by the large horn, led the UN coalition goat war against Iraq, which was Media. This was won mostly by air power. This flying UN goat from the west destroyed Iraq's military power, represented by the smaller horn, and it seems Iran, which was Persia, represented by the larger horn, will be next, as it is now also exerting its power in the region, especially against the US. Daniel 8:8. NIV. The goat became very great, but at the height of its power the large horn was broken off, and in its place 4 prominent horns grew up toward the 4 winds of heaven. After the US-led UN coalition has destroyed Iran, the US's military power will also be destroyed by the UN, and the other 4 permanent members will take control of the UN. 8. United Nations Security Council. Revelation 17:3. ESV. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. What this verse is describing is the United Nations, and the United Nations Security Council, which runs the United Nations. This woman is symbolic of the Statue of Liberty in New York City in the United States. It is the US that rides the UN beast located in New York City, where the Statue of Liberty is also. The other 4 members of the UNSC are the 7 heads, which are Russia, the United Kingdom, China and EU France. Daniel tells us that one of the beasts has 4 heads, which the EU does, as it is run by 4 main organizations, that is heads. These 5 permanent members hold the main power in the council to agree, disagree or abstain from any policies put forward. The 10 temporary horns are the 10 temporary nations, who are invited to sit on the board. 5 nations sit on the council and 5 nations are in training. The last world power before God's kingdom is established on the earth, we are told, will be a former world power which comes back into existence. And the United Nations is, as it is a re-emergence of the Greek Empire, the beast that was, is not, and will come again. Democracy is one of the universal core values and principles of the United Nations. Democracy is a Greek government political system that rules the people of all nations under that one system, making the UN a Greek entity. Revelation 17:15-16, ESV. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw, where the prostitute is seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. It is the United Nations Security Council that will turn the United Nations against the United States, as we see these 10 temporary kings give their power and authority to the UN beast, who at this point hates this woman which represents the US. The UN beast will destroy the US and burn her with fire. Daniel tells us that these 10 kingdom areas that form the last kingdom will not stick together. See Daniel 2:43. The 10 temporary member nations sitting on the council are from the 5 different regions. Africa selects 3 temporary representatives. Asia selects 2 representatives. Latin America selects 2 representatives. Western Europe selects 2 representatives and Eastern Europe selects 1 representative. 5 temporary nations sit on the council, and 5 are in training who will replace them in a year's time, and then another 5 are selected for training. Each temporary nation that becomes a part of the United Nations Security Council, sit in total on the council, for a 2-year period. Revelation 12:3, ESV. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 crowns. The United Nations seems to come under the red dragon's control, that is under Chinese control. These 7 diadems, crowns, on the 7 heads, represent the ruling 4 permanent members of the council. 9. The earth beast with the lamb's horns, and the false prophet. Revelation 13:3, NIV. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. Revelation 13:11-12, ESV. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. The first beast came from the sea of people, and is the UN, which controls the people of the world physically through governments. The second beast comes from the ground, and is a technology beast, and controls them through the digital world. The lamb's horns can be seen on the ICANN logo. ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. It is a not-for-profit entity responsible for the technical coordination of the Internet's domain name system, the DNS, run by multi-stakeholders. It is the United Nations of the global Internet world, which ensures the smooth running of the worldwide domain in each nation. Almost all transactions are done in the digital world, which has the full force of the authority of the governments behind them, and these government policies in turn are being more and more controlled by the UN. The UN beast will war with the US, and the US will retaliate, causing a mortal wound to one of the heads of the UN beast, probably Russia, which heals, but the US military might is destroyed, and then the world will be put directly under UN control, both digitally and physically by force. Revelation 13:13-15, ESV. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people, and by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast it deceives those who dwell on earth. telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived, and it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak, and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Since we are dealing with the beast that comes from the ground, that is technology, making fire come down from heaven brings to mind computer-controlled missiles sent to destroy nations, the image that speaks, the UN beast's image, on every monitor controlling the actions of those using the digital world. Those not part of this UN beast system will be destroyed. Revelation 13:16-18, ESV. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. People will be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that they can buy or sell, and already we are seeing this system coming into place with RFID chip implants into the hand, allowing a person to make transactions through this means. And just recently Elon Musk was granted permission to start the brain chipping trials on humans. No one can be part of the UN's society if they are not chipped, and there is a big push to get rid of hard currency in all nations, so that everybody is forced into electronic commerce. John, who saw this vision of the mark on the people's heads, was from Israel, and in Hebrew gematria, 600 looks like a square, 60 looks like a circle and 6 looks like a rectangle. Putting the rectangle inside the circle and then both inside the square and you have something that looks very much like a USB Type B socket. It is this socket on their foreheads which I believe John saw, so that these people can be directly connected into their computers. This brain chip will enable a person to hook up directly to the internet, and they will not know reality from virtual reality, as your brain works on electrical signals and this chip will match your physical inputs with recreated ones, making you think that what you are experiencing is real. All sorts of false realities can be fed into your mind, and you will believe it and be programmed to like it. You will lose not only your grip on reality but your God-given identity. Revelation 14:11, ESV. And the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day or night, these worshippers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of its name. These people who get brain chipped will be lost to God, and claimed for hell by the devil, a fate worse than death. They will have no escape, as their souls will be so polluted from what was inputted into it. Revelation 19:20, ESV. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. The Antichrist and the false prophet will be thrown into the lake of fire. This false prophet deceives the people into getting the mark as if it is a good thing. There is a person who is continually pushing this technology world onto everybody, has so much control over the digital commercial world through his software, which allows people to buy and sell, and he is also invested in brain chipping technology. He has all the marks of who this false prophet is. The development of AI is as fundamental as the creation of the microprocessor, the personal computer, the internet, and the mobile phone. Gates wrote, "It will change the way people work, learn, travel, get healthcare, and communicate with each other. Entire industries will reorient around it. Businesses will distinguish themselves by how well they use it." Most recently, Neuralink raised $205 million for its Series C funding round, which saw Google Ventures, Arch Venture Partners founder Robert Belson, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and several other titans invest. Musk isn't the only one pouring hundreds of millions into brain development. Recently, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates and Amazon.com founder Jeff Bezos invested in Synchron, a startup focused on deciphering the brain's neural code. Read, A Divine Revelation of Hell, by Mary K. Baxter, who saw in her visions in 1965 the future, at a time when personal computers were just starting out. In her vision she saw people being brain chipped and reduced to emotionless zombies.